Hey everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how to paint this cat that ate Halloween, or swallowed Halloween, step by step in watercolor. This is my original digital design that I put together, and in this lesson, I'm going to explain every technique, every step, including the drawing. So if you're wanting to use one of the beginner resources like the traceable, you'll have plenty of time to do that while I am drawing out the cat. And if you're wanting to learn how I might draw this, you can follow along for that part too. On the mic is my husband, John. He is moving me all over the screen, like very crazy. And now the cat swallowed me. And he's going to make sure that you can see the techniques and materials and things that I'm talking about, zoomed in when necessary, in focus when necessary, make sure that everything works out technologically. Now, if you're here during the live chat, we do take live questions during the show. And you want to put those all in caps. Nobody will think that you are yelling. Dad jokes are strongly encouraged during our live show, and general silliness and kindness is strongly encouraged as well. So, you know, if you're new and you're shy, this is a great chat to jump on in and say hi and be your silly self with everybody else, I think.
I agree. That's what we do.
That's what we do, and we do it so well. Let's talk about the materials today.
Talk about them.
All right, so I have a Fabriano 140-pound cold-pressed pure cotton watercolor paper on a block. And that means all the pages are glued together. This is a study of a painting I was messing around with. And you can see that all I've got to do to get to the fresh page is lift up. There are a lot of ways to stretch paper or prevent wrinkling. I do need to make a video about that. If you have good paper, sometimes you can soak and tape down, right? Or you can wet both sides and keep wetting and tape down. There's some methods, but understand paper by paper, those methods can get tricky. So definitely do research on that, especially per paper company on their recommendations, because it might work in a, on a pin on Instagram, it might work really well, but it might be very material specific. I like these blocks because they work 100% of the time with very little fuss or muss. There's no fuss, there's no muss, there's no coconuts.
Okay.
All right, watercolor colors. I have my full palette out today. In a day like this, I'm going to tell you every color that I have. I don't use every color every video, but these are the only colors I'm using this year. So if you want to learn how to watercolor and you'd like to do that with me, you could easily collect the palette through time and not
like
have to worry about me changing up colors on you or making you get something weird. I've got Payne's Gray, Nickel Azo Yellow, Hansa Yellow Medium, Pyrrole Red, Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, Opera Pink, Transparent Pyrrole Orange, Burnt Umber, Quinacridone Gold, and Phthalo Green. We have a blog introducing you new artists to watercolors if you really need to know some basic stuff. We've written up some good kind of Q&A and information that you as a beginner might want.
Pencils.
Pencils.
Talk about the pencils.
So these are Cretacolor watercolor graphite pencils. So they are a pencil. They're graphite. They're not a watercolor pencil per se. They're a graphite pencil that's water soluble, and it works like a pencil and it works like a watercolor pencil. And that's going to make sketching in my cat and changing my mind and having a nice time. I can use these and then not have to use an eraser. And I don't like to use an eraser because it can scuff up the surface of my painting. Let's begin by sketching in the cat. John can say hi to everyone. I'm going to sip my coffee, sketch in, talk about what I'm doing. You can follow along with me if you want, or you can go print out the traceable from the website, theartsherpa.com.
All right. That was a lot.
Mods, if you have, I believe I gave you the link before the show. Feel free to share the link with anybody here. Now, I'm going to come and give myself some ideas of space. I want to have a little bit of room from the top of the cat's head. I need less room at the bottom of the tail. I am going to make sure that my chest, however fluffy I get, doesn't go really past 3 fingers on the side. This is 9 by 12. And I'm going to come over and give myself like 2 fingers. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to remind myself that this cat holds so much space in the paper. I'm going to come here and say, all right, buddy, your little chin's going to end here. And so between here and here is where I'm going to think about his wonderful, amazing, fantastic, fluffy little head. I'm going to give myself a top line very lightly, guys, because I want this really to vanish. I'm not doing line and wash today. You could do this guy really easily in the line and wash method. You know, that would be super fine. But
what method are you using?
I'm going to use just these, like, it would be line and wash if I was using a regular pencil, but I'm using a watercolor pencil, so it's really just kind of watercolor today.
Huh. Okay, I didn't know if watercolor was full of methods,
Oh, it
or
is.
if this
It's
was.
a very old medium, believe you me. They have like very traditional names and approaches and non-traditional. There's just watercolor is a deep well. Enjoy the well because it's fantastically splashy all the way down. When I have the ears set, it helps me set the middle of the face, right, which I can do here. And the halfway point between the chin and the top of his head is where I'm going to think about putting the eyes. It's not so dissimilar from a person in that way. And I'm going to begin by making sure that I have an eye's width on either side for the nose.
Oh, well,
We're
that
going to
makes sense.
scoop up some eye here.
You don't want, wonkety-eyed cat looking at you.
Well, I mean, that's going to happen with me anyways because I get all big with my eyes. If you have trouble with the left eye, drawing the left eye, draw the left eye first and then the right eye. If ever you have trouble with getting a side to be even and balanced with your weak side, you want to draw, you want to draw your weak side first because you'll be able to match up easier. Which I did not do a good example of, but I'm pretty good now at balancing them out. There was a time, though, it was all weak side first. So we're going to come down a little bit, and I'm going to give myself the cat kind of nose. And I may move his chin down some. I don't know, it depends. Let's put the nose here. Thinking about the nose. It's a pretty good little nose. They have like little chevron noses that are downward facing. Now, it's a little challenging for John to capture the light pencil.
Actually, I think we got it.
Do you? That's amazing.
So
I'm
I've
going to
been
give that
working
chin a little more thought.
them cameras.
You've been working dim cameras?
I still think that there's a little more color accuracy I can get because I can see the whites, and there's just this touch of yellow, which is actually coming from the lights.
Is it? Well, and the paper, believe it or not, this is their off-white paper. This isn't their bright white paper. They have one that is super white. So if you're doing a lot of Instagram and a lot of online work and you're trying to get more clicks, sometimes if you have that paper be a little whiter, I don't know what it is. It's human behavior that can help you. So if you work from a very white paper to begin with and you put yourself in a well-lit, bright background, that might help your Instagram. There you go. You got an Instagram tip. So I'm coming from the little edges of the cat's mouth, and I'm just making sure the diamond shape of the cat's skull is kind of lightly sketched in. Even though I'm going to do this in layers of fur, it helps me recognize where I've got to kind of bring this little line out. And I really want to bring the line out. I want to exaggerate some things. That's why I had to give myself guides, because I will exaggerate so much. It's just fun to play with line. I think what's going to be challenging is when I get into the interior area that the kitty swallowed. Making sure that I don't go just too bananas with it. Now, by being light, I'm going to leave room for me to be able to do some very fluffy fur on the outside edge. Here at the bottom space, I'm going to want to make sure that I just kind of do the trajectory of my tail and talk a little bit about the upside of my fur. I'm going to be doing that fur work really with my brush, so I just have to know some constraint lines. And then in here, really all in this space, so much space in this is the cat part where it's swallowed Halloween. So let's put a little moon up here. And down here, look at me struggling with my circle. Again, if you guys are doing the traceable, this is a great time to do that and catch up before we begin the painting part. Let's come down to the bottom and make a squish circle for our little jack-o'-lantern. He's going to take up, if you think from here to here is the space in which they're there, he's going to take up almost halfway of the space. He's a pretty big boy. He's a pretty big boy. I'm going to maybe talk about his little ribs here. You got to give yourself some reminders that they have little ribs. Let's give a more interesting stem than our reference gave us, right? Because we're artists, so we can. We're going to add his little jack-o'-lantern face in. Again, as artists, you can exaggerate things in a really fun way. I'm going to bring this little mouth in. And I like to give him little fangs like a vampire. And I'm going to make the mouth a little bit bigger. Right, we'll have the tail kind of come up here. So there's a little bit of that, right? And then we've got the girl. So the girl really, if you look at the moon, comes down at kind of an angle to here's the top of her head. And then here's the space in her feet. And children, so if you think of like a fashion drawing and you divide a figure up into number of heads, a fashion model is like 7 to 8, 9 heads. There's so many heads. But a regular person is about 5 or 6 heads, and kids are 3 to 4. So that's just segmenting the body, you know. And if you want to have like a good segment and you want to be like, all right, well, here in the midway point, we're going to have a waist, and I know that I have to have room for the barrel of the chest here.
I'm so glad this is a Halloween painting
Hmm.
because I can talk about Venom.
Okay.
And every time you talk about how many heads tall someone is,
You
I
want to be
think
like
of
stack of bodies, stack of heads?
pile of heads, pile of bodies. What else do you need to know?
Why would you do that? Pile of heads, pile of bodies. So I'm going to bring the little waist in here, and I've got the torso. When I have that in, I can bring the back of the leg exaggerated because she's up on her tiptoes. Let's bring that in a little exaggerated. Pop a little heel out. Curve in the arch of the foot. There we go. Just a little bit exaggerated. And I might kind of shave this back in a little bit to make that leg a little more slight. Now, I've got this back shoulder here, right? This shoulder is kind of going back, the hand's going back. And this one is coming forward. And it's sort of holding a lantern. So I've got to make room for that little experience there. And it's a bit detailed. It is a bit detailed. I'm going to just draw very carefully. I like to make sure that there's a bit of a bow at the elbow coming down to the wrist. And now I'm going to do this because I am at a stage of my life where I need vision enhancers for the detail bits. If you need them, it's a good idea, but don't strain your eyes.
I went from no vision enhancers
to all vision enhancers all the time.
Like in 3 months. It was
crazy.
like, you have the best eyes. Nope. Done with that portion. You now wear glasses again.
I have no idea why in my head I believed somehow I was going to be exempt from this.
Star Trek.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what confused me.
Okay, because other than Bones, who did it because he was a Luddite, and Kirk because he thought it was cool, quote unquote, then Picard did too because he said he thought it was cool. But there weren't very many people who wore glasses other than Geordi.
The Fortune was the coolest.
Well, because he needed them because he was blind. Everybody else was like, yeah, we got magic eye fixers. And I think we were all counting on the magic eye fixers.
Well, you know, reading Rainbow and all that. I'm going to exaggerate the belly of the lantern a little. Just because. And add a little bit here. So it's a little more magical in the glow. I'm going to add the backward arm. Now, something to keep in mind. Your waist says where your arm is going to have to go. So just keep that in mind when you're doing that. You can always exaggerate your tutu. You can always exaggerate your witch. Bring a little elbow there. So hopefully John can capture some of this for you. One thing I can advise you if you're just trying to figure this out. One, there's some really good figure drawing classes on YouTube now. There's some really good instructors that teach like proper method figure drawing. That's been in the last 2 years, really, that they have come on. And I would definitely take advantage of that if it's something that you're interested in. And these are people with expertise in that field. like where they've got 75 ways to explain to you the craziness that is the human figure and how to counterpose a hip and all of that. So if you have a deep interest in something like that, you definitely want to take advantage. Now I've got the little head here, and her face is going to be kind of taking up that space. So I've got to figure out how to, let's see if I can get my, it's going to be such a challenge on this. I'm going to give myself kind of a sense of.
Sharon's watching with Sam, so I have to go, hey Sam, what you doing, Sam? You want a treat, Sam? See, now Sharon has to give you a treat, because I said treat.
Uh-oh. Are you getting somebody else's dog a treat?
It's better than me, like, asking what the AI thinks of something in a live when they all have that AI listening in the room with them.
Oh, that's so funny. I hadn't thought of doing that.
I thought about it all the time, but I think it would be just sort of, mean to say something like, Alexa, what time is it?
Oh, or Alexa, what is the meaning of life?
And then she answers all for us.
Yes. Yes, she does. As she should.
See, it's Halloween, so I guess we could do that.
Let's bring some little hair down here. I really like the kind of wiggling around of this witch's hat where it's sort of like crushed. And comes into a little bit. You add some hair here. What's funny?
Sharon said that he twists his head back and forth. Oh, and Lubella said we did set off the AI.
So, fun fact about me, if you'd like to know a fun fact about me, is I say angry things to Jeff Bezos through Alexa.
Deliver this message for me.
I have so many feelings. And I share them. And I also wonder, do they have a place where if you, complain to Alexa about Jeff Bezos, do they have a place where those messages are stored and collected? And do they have a way of delivering that information? People are real mad at you right now.
See, I know all the gamers in the room because I can say, Cortana, who is Master Chief? And a whole different group of AI just answered.
All right. I feel like I got a nice little, you can put a second little pumpkin sort of hidden here, kind of behind the first. Now that we've got all the major structure in, we can add those little extras. So now we get to this gorgeous little waterfall thing. And again, because I used this watercolor pencil, I don't have to erase. I can easily remove lines I don't like with water. It's actually pretty spectacular. And that is how I would draw this in. And also, now you know I could draw this in.
You can do it.
It's just, sometimes people come in and they're like, you can draw. And I'm like, I really can. I'm not the greatest renderer in the universe, but I'm pretty happy with what I do. Number 14 round by the Raphael line by Soft Aqua. Okay. We are painting, I'm using Core Sennelier Aquarelle, and I'm using Daniel Smith on my watercolor palette. And I believe that it's going to be best and easiest because the cat is black to paint the interior scene first. That is a belief that I have. So you could mask things out if you were concerned. Right? But I'm going to just very carefully paint around her dress with water. You're like, wait, what? Yeah, that's a big thing that you do with watercolor, which is why the weight of your paper. And I might go over my little stem because, well, why worry about it? And I'm going to just continue up because I want to get kind of a mysterious little scene going behind her. And there's things that are darker, so I can take a minute See there where I trimmed up her leg and made it a little bit smaller? I can do that. Now, the paint's only going to go where the water is, so I'm going to get a little of my nickel Azo Yellow. And just very carefully paint this area low. It's okay to create little atmospheric bits. See how I'm not painting like every inch of the paper to kind of create that sense of cloud or atmosphere? And that's okay to do. If you have to go back with a paper towel to lift up, know that you can. That's looking pretty good. I'll go into my next color. Let's get some Pyrrole Red and maybe some transparent Pyrrole Orange. Pyrrole is a great set of colors. Maybe a little more transparent Pyrrole Orange. There we go. And I offloaded a little pigment. You could definitely have more in there. A little more of that. Oh, that's such a fun color. Look at that go. Now, I know I want some pink. I can do Quinacridone Magenta. I'll get my Opera Pink just because it's out. Now, I am using this brand of Rose Opera, which is Opera Pink, by Sennelier, and that's because it is longer light fast than other Opera Pinks.
Question.
They reformulated it.
Good question.
Answer.
Can you frame watercolor under glass?
You should frame watercolor under glass.
Why?
Not only can you, but you should, because the glass protects the paper and the watercolor from the environment. It can slow down fading. We used to use glass instead of varnish. Now, they have varnish now for watercolors. You know, so...
They seem to have a sealant for everything.
They do now. They do. You can see I'm working wet into wet here, guys, and that's helping keep this all very soft. I'm going to come through here. And again, this pink around my little arm because I want to leave room to paint it. It's almost a silhouette. It's going to be quite dark, but I still want to make sure that I've reserved that paper. I might paint into there so I can be a little more whimsical with the hair. Now, coming around this lantern, I'm going to really want to make sure that I have a glow going out into the sky. And if you guys paint acrylic with me, I want y'all to appreciate how easy it is going to be to make this glow. I'm going to continue to wet up the paper so I don't get a hard edge. All right. Because I can come back with purples and other colors very easily. I just want to keep having soft edges in my fantasy. Back into my nickel Azo Yellow. You could use your Hansa if you wanted. Come here.
Do you have a
Come around the
recommendation?
lantern.
Do you have a recommendation for varnish brands for watercolor?
You know what? I do not, because it's really new. But if John reminds me the next time we talk to Andrew, who is a materials expert at Savoir-Faire and McPherson's, I will ask, because they just did a whole series of testing, if you'll remember.
And
They did a whole series of testing. I'm going to grab a little of my transparent Pyrrole Orange and Opera Pink.
time for Raheel to go to sleep.
Oh, good night, Raheel.
Good night, Raheel.
Sweet dreams. Be safe. The world is crazy. Be safe, be safe. Just adding a little bit of yellow, just making sure I've got a nice little glow out. And not exaggerate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy the glow out. Remember, you can re-wet areas, so don't be too stressed on yourself. If an area dries, you can come back in and re-soften that. I don't know why I decided to be so fussy and do a pinky up. What was I thinking? I don't know. I was thinking, how can I make this harder on myself? I know it, pinky up.
Hold on a second.
I'm going to get a little bit of my Phthalo Blue and kind of come in and work some of that around. A little Phthalo Blue. fun to do. This gets to be very whimsical and watercolory, and I very much enjoy it. Maybe come down here.
Ooh, there's a Sherpa lunch bag in the store.
What?
I didn't know that. We got new stuff in the store.
New stuff in the Art Sherpa store. Woohoo!
It's coming. There's new stuff coming in.
Is it there or is it coming?
No, well, I mean, no, there's lots of stuff they've been working on. So I just didn't know when it was officially going to be listed and photos were ready and listings were happening. But, you know, it appears those things are progressing.
Come under the chin here. Now we're going to come back with black fur, but black easily covers all these transparent colors. So, you know, the thing is it's easy to darken in watercolor. You work much more for lightening. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to use a little bit of my Ultramarine Blue and my Quinacridone Magenta, and I'm going to make some nice purples. Nice purples. A bit darker up here into the sky. Soften this down here. Pull some of that purple down into this very colorful sky. Rinse out very well. And then I'm going to come into some spaces around the dress and anywhere that I feel like I need to clean up what I'm doing.
Now, if you weren't going to preserve the white on the moon, could you use a like white paint on over it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could.
So you wouldn't have to worry, like if you weren't as like
you wouldn't have to worry at all.
If you had some runaway, you could just come back in with acrylic paint or like soft body white or whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to use a smaller round. I'm going to use the number 10. Just because I'm going to come work the eyes. And the reason I'm doing this is sometimes in a painting, you can work other areas of the painting while you're letting something dry. I'm going to start with a little bit of my nickel Azo Yellow. And come over the top. Kind of paint in some of the eye here. Again, we can always darken, so it's lightening that's more challenging. So what you see me doing is rinsing out and wiping off. And then I'll even come here and at the bottom of the eye kind of pick up some color. So I'll have a little bit of light there. Now I also have some acrylic paint out just in case I want to lighten anything later. You could also use white gouache. And then just lighten it out. My boo-boo here. Pick up my boo-boo. Lighten it out. And there's a little bit of green here. I have it from my phthalo green over here, so I'm going to grab this up. I think I want to get some Quin Gold into it just to kind of grade out. Come to the top of the eye. And add some spacing on this green. It's going to see me kind of tapping up and down. Quin Gold into that. And I rinse out my brush and kind of lighten that up and blend it and soften it in through. A little my Quin Nickel Azo back on the brush. Come to this inside eye and kind of create a stronger sense of yellow there on that inside left eye. Little curl, almost a C. And that's really helped a lot of this sort of dry so that I could come back like to the moon, say. I'm going to get the moon wet. Not soaked, just wet. Get a little bit of my Payne's gray. And I tap out a little bit of what I think our craters might look like. They'll be soft though. They're going to disperse. I'll go ahead and like softly let the gray go through. Maybe a little darker. You know, just take a little moment. You've got time. You have time to do things like the moon. I find that with watercolors, there's less battling. You know, to get to something. It's a really lovely moon. I'm very happy with that. Now I've got this fabulous little jack-o'-lantern. I'm going to get my nickel Azo Yellow. Into the inside of these eyes. Right. I'll rinse out. Rinse out. This is the 10 again, the 10 round, and I'm just picking it for the point. And what I'm doing is making sure that the outer part of the eye is just a brighter gold and the inner eye is just a little bit light. Come here. Just enjoy my mouth. Glowing on up. He's a glowing jack-o'-lantern, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's a joy. I like him so much. This is going to be a really pretty painting when it's done. Let's keep lightening up and removing. You could also take paper towel and really subtract a lot if you needed to. If you put a paper towel, dabbed a paper towel through there, it would subtract a lot. If you wanted it, if you needed to, you could do it. Take a little of my Quinacridone Gold and my transparent Pyrrole Orange. Let's make sure that we have a little yellow reflection towards the side. A little more transparent Pyrrole Orange. Quinacridone Gold. Getting a little bit of that little pumpkin joy in, right? Transparent Pyrrole Orange, any orange that you have. If you don't have my exact colors, you don't have to worry about that at all. My exact colors are not necessary. Might also pull out a paper towel if I want to pick anything up.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, you can lighten again with, you can add some highlights with your gouache. You get some of my orange and Payne's gray together. A little shadow here. The bottom. And the top. I'll just take a soft brush and make sure that that's pretty blended. So that particular pumpkin is not bright. It's pretty dark pumpkin.
I generally don't get to know my pumpkins that well.
I'm just telling you, he's a dark soul.
Kind of creepy back there behind the other one with the big smile.
It could be. I'm going to get a little of my red and orange. Just make sure that I can work out my lantern a little bit. Going to my Payne's gray.
I'm curious if we have anyone new with us today.
Oh, I'd love to hear. Let's top this with some Payne's gray while we're meeting everybody new.
Because we have a lot of folks with us today, so I was just curious, who's new? Or we could have a whole bunch
Everybody
of
already knows this. Nobody new showed up.
And that's okay too, because got lots of friends hanging out, so, But I'm always interested to know who's new.
I'm getting a Hansa yellow medium this now. It's just a brighter yellow than the nickel Azo is even. And then John's going to tell me if we have anybody new so we can say hi. But I also want to say hi to everybody who comes back and supports these classes from week to week. So we can keep doing them.
I see so many familiar faces.
Pyrrole orange.
Get all romper room up in here.
Is it romper room up in here?
Maha has been doing your acrylic, but she's new to the watercolor.
It's really fun. I highly recommend it.
It's pretty cool. I like the watercolor stuff too.
I'm being a little fussy here. Probably more than's necessary, but I'm enjoying myself, so.
So Sharon has some pets, Sam and Dean.
Do Do you have some pets, Salmondine? I'm going to switch back to my number 14. How are Salmondine?
Jumping on the keyboards, apparently.
Well, it sounds like they're hunting monsters. Right? That's what they do.
Whoop.
It's their
I got
job.
distracted.
So it seems like your Salmondine are well named. I mean, all evil enters the house through the keyboard, right? All right. So I've got my orange pumpkin up here kind of well done, and I'm going to, on the front face, be a little more orange.
Ooh.
And then I'll darken at the back of the pumpkin. A little more orange. And again, you don't have to worry because we've got a lot of cat fur that's coming up. So you're going to have room to like...
Where there's cats, there's no shortage of cat fur.
Where there is cats, there's no shortage. This is so true. I'm going to take my gray and a little Quinacridone Gold. And just make sure.
Grace is like, I'm not sure I'm going to watercolor yet, but I do like the hanging out part, so I'm here for that.
Oh, we'll get you. We'll get you eventually.
It got me. So what I'll say is that when you discover there's a water brush and like a little pan set and some ATCs, and you're like, all right, I got a little kit I can bring with me and not be committed to anything other than like this little piece of paper, it's actually kind of fun.
It really is. So I just added some Payne's gray to some of our transparent Pyrrole orange. And I'm going to allow some of that to kind of gently shade out and soften, as it likes to do. Back into my transparent Pyrrole orange. A little more dry brushing around here just to brighten the color. There we go. So we're just popping his little face. And he's looking pretty darn good. Now, I'm going to take a little of the burnt umber and the Payne's gray. I think a little bit about her hair coming off. I've done the outside edges, and then I can take a damp brush and sort of fill in. Come back with a little burnt umber. Maybe a little hair comes forward. That's nice. I'm going to let that have a dry.
All right.
And I'm going to start just with an orange leg. We'll get the stripes in a minute. If we start with the orange leg, that'll be much easier to do. She's in silhouette, so I'm going to kind of do her almost in a silhouette, but just a little bit lighter than a silhouette.
Naomi's like, shh, I'm just popping in while I'm at work for a moment.
Hi, Naomi. How are you?
So here's the thing. sometimes we find that there are like friends, so don't worry, you're safe here.
We have had coworkers pop into the same chat.
They're
It's
like,
funny
oh,
from the past.
then there's the code word at work, Sherpa time. Everybody's taking their coffee break at about the same time, talking back there in the water cooler, like, it's, we've heard these things happen.
We have genuinely heard them happen. Now up at the hand, I'm going to take a little bit of orange. Maybe even down the arm. And that's because the lantern would kind of warm that up and light that a bit, wouldn't it? I might even get some of my nickel Azo Yellow. And come from behind with a little Payne's Gray. Kind of making sure that we've got silhouette that we like. Now, her dress is very dark, right? But we're not going to do it pure black. We're going to actually go maybe I'm going to try to get it into some blues and grays. So we'll start with this blue.
Laurie had a black cat with the same expression this cat does, very regal and more superior to everyone. And I always see it as, I'm going to eat your toe. So, I'm not sure. It could kind of go either way.
Got kind of that like blue value in it. And now I'm going to get a little Payne's Gray. And just make sure that some of this is a little shaded. Just a bit. Lift up some color from the front here. Just a little bit off her chest. We're going to gather a little deeper color at the back and under the arm here. Add a little more color here. And it's about being able to blend these two. So you've just got to be able to, kind of work this together so that you're catching these little moments. Back into my brown, maybe Quinacridone Gold and Gray skin tone, because again, it's silhouette, but not a pure silhouette. My goodness, this is going to be delicate work here. Delicate work.
I'm watching you with a zoom camera. I can't even imagine like trying to do this with my eyeballs.
It is definitely
You humans
a
are
challenge.
amazing.
Now, so I'm going to take a little bit of my orange. Just make sure the front of the face has a little bit of glow on it. And it just kind of implies the facial features. And then here, towards the back, a deeper shadow. Maybe a little more along the jaw. And these are subtle things because, again, she's lit. Let me get a little more orange. A little more orange. Kind of see that we're putting just a little orange feeling into what's the hair. There we go. A little bit of blowing. It always is nice if it blows a little bit. Okay. So we have hat, legs, and skirt to do. Hat, legs, skirt to do, and finished pumpkins. It's just going. Let's start with a little orange and yellow. There we go. That's not bad. A little bit of a skirt going. Back into our dress color. Bring in some light and dark. Be darker back here. But now it just sort of feels like that little tutu.
It does.
Little red. There we go. It's looking pretty good. She's got a little thing. We still have a hat. And while I'm here, I'm going to make a dark orange. My little gray and a little orange. Back of the hat, darker. Grab some transparent Pyrrole. Front of the hat, just a little bit lighter. Don't want to dry brush it, so I'm going to add a little water to my brush. And these two are going to blend wet into each other. And that's as it should be. Just making sure we've got little bits of what we expect, where we expect it. Let that hat dry, and I'm going to come in and get a little of my, actually I'm going to go with my, oh, that's green. I'm going to take some green and Payne's gray. And we're going to just, no, it's not that it's completely unorange. We're just darken this a little bit before we do the stripe. All right. And maybe a little bit of darker to the back of the leg.
A little shading?
Yeah, just a little bit. Again, this foot, there's cat hair, so, you know, a lot of this will be, you don't want to put so much work into this detail that you're really sad when your other stuff kind of comes in and takes it away. Let me grab some of my blue here.
Hello, Emily, who's been away a little while, but she's been able to catch a live stream, so she's happy to be back.
Hi, Emily. All right. So we're doing pretty good here. I feel like we could darken up some of this outer range. I'm going to take my big brush. I'm really coming with my ultramarine blue. And come and just sort of deepen this a bit on this outer edge. Really add this extra color. I'm going to soften this with a damp brush later.
You know, I feel like some of our crew here needs like a clubhouse where they can go talk about like, you know, all the stuff going on in the world that they want to like be like, did you hear?
What's the topic of conversation today?
Murder.
Is it Brian Laundrie?
It is. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not like chances are, if one area of our community's into it, most of our area community's into it. So it's like,
well, I think for me, I started following it really early because YouTube and TikTok, and just knowing who the people were from those places, right? And then, you know, honestly wondering, you know, how is that going to work itself out? Because, you know, are their communities going to find them? You know, what's going to happen? And so I started following it in those spaces, and it's definitely.
it's in the YouTube.
It's in the YouTubery. Now I'm going to really wet this and then come back.
It's unfortunate for everybody there involved, but, you know.
Well, I'm just probably like many others, just really upset for her parents' sake.
Seems like all the parents kind of got hosed in this. Kids should not be doing this stuff.
I'm sorry. My sympathy is to her parents.
Agreed. I agree with that.
You know, that's just me, and you guys don't have to agree with me. There we go. Gotta make sure that that's down there. And again, we're going to have cat hair around some of this. So I just want to make sure that we have, you know, the dramatic sky.
Dramatic.
That we're hoping for. And you can see I can just pull some color in and then lift some color up, and that creates its own little effect, doesn't it?
It sort of lifts some and dries it and kind of does a combo.
Makes it look super galactic.
We have a lot of treat-oriented pets in the
Treat-oriented pets?
I think all pets are treat-oriented.
I was about to be like, you just described all pets everywhere. I'm going to grab some Quinacridone Gold. And I'll start to give this pumpkin some pumpkin-y shape. I'll glaze that. I might come into my Payne's Gray. Bring up an interesting little pumpkin stem there, isn't that?
Mm-hmm.
There's a nice little tip on that brush, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I get to enjoy that quite a lot. And come down and deepen the stem. I also want to come in and kind of define these little eyes with contrast a bit. And give this a bit of a stem. Little bit of a thing there. A little implied face shadows. A little bit. Hat. Stockings. All right. So I'm going to come here and stripe.
Emily could you remind me the differences between cold and hot pressed watercolor blocks?
Hot pressed, super smooth. Perfectly smooth. Cold pressed, bumpy. Both same quality. Both will have bloom. Cold press can cause your painting to show certain more spontaneity because of the bumpiness of the paper and the way the paint can collect. But they're both equal quality for performance.
They just have different characteristics of water.
Yeah. Now I'm going to take this and do some like little drawing lines here.
In art, if anyone tells you something's bad, someone's going to take that mantle up and prove you wrong.
Did somebody tell somebody that it was bad?
No, I'm just saying. But I mean, like, if you were to say,
such a
like I said, arbitrary
weird thing for them to do.
It doesn't really matter. If someone, this is just what happens to humans. They get weirdly like.
You know what? Here's the deal in art. You will find in art, there are people who are ambassadors and people who are gatekeepers. There are people who, no matter who you are, no matter where you are in your art journey, invite you into the gallery, invite you to the show, invite you into the class, show you the technique, and remind you that it doesn't matter who you are, you can do this. And then there are other people who, they don't want anyone else to play. And they feel like you have to, I don't know, be there and earn it and all this like craziness of, I don't know. They have some worthiness issues. It's just their journey. What I'll say is their journey. But if you run into one of the kind of gatekeeper kind, don't let that stop you from all art everywhere. Right? Just because somebody snotty says something ridiculous, that's their journey. That's their creative moment. You can't say any of this is of any more value than anything else. I mean, the value we assign to art is incredibly arbitrary.
Yeah.
Right? It's perceived value. It's very rare that the paper and pigment is worth so much money that it justifies the price of the art.
Yep.
So just keep in mind that you have a right to be anywhere you want to be in any art space that you want to be. And nobody has a right to tell you that you're not allowed there unless there's a membership or something. And then you should be allowed to join. If you are in Houston and you follow me and you're not in the Visual Art Alliance, you should be.
Because they're all visually aligned.
Oh, they're amazing. They are ambassadors. And they help artists get those first shows, those first exhibits. They make a safe space for you to learn about critique. They make a great space for new artists to show and find gallery space.
We volunteered at a couple shows.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteer is a loose word where your friend calls and says, you're going to show up and help.
It's very good to have good friends like that. But what I'll say is, yeah, if you're in Houston, you should be in the Visual Art Alliance. They also do closed educational seminars where you get to talk to amazing creatives about process.
I'm actually really grateful to have done that. Would have never have seen how they get to work without going and doing that.
Exactly.
It's really good. If you get a chance to volunteer, you should, just because you can see the inside working of a show and kind of understand, and you can see how other people are just as nervous as you and how strange the entries are.
Well, and also that the juror maybe comes in with a concept in mind, and it's not about what you entered, but about what kind of show they're trying to create.
How important it is for you to read the submission guidelines.
Oh, read the submission guidelines.
Very important.
Don't double under shows. There's like just lots of stuff, and you get to private showings, like if this steam press is going on. There's just so much to do, and it's so worth your time. And sometimes art leagues are friendly, and sometimes they're not friendly. The Watercolor Society, if you think this is at all fun, you should join the Watercolor Society. Just join it. If it's obviously if it's in your budget, but if you like this and you think this is great, you should join the Watercolor Society.
Because there's a society of watercolorists hanging out together.
There is, but also there's such education there. I'm just her arm got a little crazy, and so I'm kind of erasing. Because you can do that. Look at that. I erased that crazy wonky arm. It happens, and you just fix it. Just fix it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all pretty wonderful, isn't it?
It is.
I love it. Now, I've got some gouache over here that I can reactivate, and I'm going to get some clean water. Gouache is an opaque type of watercolor.
There were lots of gouache comments earlier.
And I'm going to maybe add a little bit to the front of her dress there.
Oh, yeah.
Add some to the front of her dress there. Make sure my moon is looking pretty okay. I like getting into the gouache. And come in the maybe the center of the eyes, make sure that they have a little bit more kind of white. Not amazing how much fun that is, and it adds a really nice little element. The heart of the lantern. Maybe I'll just sort of dry brush out a little bit of radial light. Something to kind of sparkle. Maybe a little more water to reactivate it. So gouache, like watercolor, can be activated again. So if it dries, you don't have to just let it go.
Is that something you also have to be aware of when you're painting over it?
Yeah. You have to be aware that your watercolor can reactivate and that your gouache can reactivate. So it's not like acrylic where when it's dry, it's down.
Robin would like to know what gouache is.
Gouache is it's very similar to watercolor. It's an opaque process, and you layer it on more like poster paint. And in fact, you can think of it as like incredibly high quality poster paint. Similar technique, similar process. Just kind of enjoy playing with all these things. I like that. Playful to me. It's very, very playful. Now, guess what? We're going to take a minute. I'm going to ask John to heat my coffee. If there's questions, I'm going to take up, and then we're going to do the cat. And this whole piece is really going to be quite spectacular when we get into the cat. And while I'm there, I'm going to clean up some of it. Yeah, I'm going to use a square brush because I've so normally I would wear a glove or have something called a bridge. So I could really rest my hand over my paper and not drag paint.
And
I have
talk
a bridge,
about the difference between poster paint and gouache?
So poster paint, it has not as quality of a binder. It tends to be chalkier, and the pigments are not made with the same presence and intention. So there's slightly different formulations in that it's opaque, it's reactivatable, and it's very matte. It can have a lot in common with gouache. You wouldn't be able to just add water, like just water to like powdered gouache and like make paint the way you can with poster paint. There's more of a binder in gouache, the gum arabics in there. So, and also that you might not know this, but there's very fine quality poster paints. Richardson makes some really high end poster paints, and they make pigments for egg tempera, and so there's grades of everything. Sometimes if we see things, I'm just picking up my little boo-boos here with a damp brush. If we see things maybe be used for kids' projects, we forget that they might have very fine, high-end counterparts that we can have. Just cleaning this up. John is heating my coffee. I find I am totally powered by coffee is what I find. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to paint the outer cat. And I'm actually going to be kind of detailed and involved in the face, and then maybe a little bit detailed again at the tail. But the outer edges, that's a little more of the silhouette fur, and I'll bring some of the fur in and some of the fur out. And so this will then be the cat that swallowed Halloween. I feel like there are elements of this that just lend itself very much to a watercolor and might not necessarily be as fun for me in acrylic. Not that I couldn't do both. I'm going to add another layer of the gouache here to pop that white. There we go. Really kind of exaggerate that. Dry brush that there. Sometimes these little pops can really make a big difference in how something might look. Just exaggerating her glow. Thank you for that, babe. This cat is so pretty. And we've got a lot of lovely start to the eyes. I'm going to come in and I think I'm going to take my number 14 round. I really like these soft aquas, guys. I like these soft aquas. I actually ran into them through my relationship with my friends over at Salvo Fair, and they had suggested that I try this and gave me a brush, and I was just like, this is amazing. And when I realized it was imitation squirrel and not squirrel, I got really excited because I don't necessarily like synthetics, but I would prefer to paint synthetics where I can, just because, kindness and all that. And I've been really, really, really loving this brush. This resiliency, its point, its spring, just everything about it, the way it holds water, I really, really like it. So that is my experience. I'm going to wet inside the ear for just a second. And I'm going to get some Quinacridone Gold. It's not that we won't have much darker something going on around the ear. I just kind of wanted this brown to start with. For the inside. And I won't necessarily put this anywhere else. And anyway else, I just want to have that so that when I come in, I can have kind of that light skin peak before the gray fur. Everything okay, babe? Now I'm going to work the nose. Everything's going to really be mostly Payne's gray on him. So it'll be about value and highlights later. And let me put now that I've been using these, then I just want to only use these because they gave my eyes such a break. But I'm going to do a light gray initially on the nose. I will come back with darker colors for sure, but I just want to have that nice light value. And then we're going to do some light grays where there's highlights. And you can have some brown into it. If you'll notice, he's got a little brown cast to his fur and a little gray cast to his fur. So you're okay in that. Let's right over here. I want to make sure that I've got some light values. I'm going to just, on the toe of my brush, some of this kind of just come out. Look at that, it's very good. Wonderful. All right. We can easily always go darker, but sometimes it's hard to capture the highlights. It's easy to go darker, sometimes it's hard to capture a highlight. Come up over. And even though it's very, very dark around certain areas, I'm going to start with my gray here. And then let's kind of tip, 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 tip. And I may even get into my bright, which will give me very nice fur. And I'm just kind of layering in now the start to him. He's going to have a white spot kind of under his eye. Definitely under the nose. You know, so we've got to just start to give those highlight kind of gray browns. Everything okay, Don? Oh, okay. No problem. Yay, you! We're all good. Okay. So it's not particularly a dark color in any way.
And I have.
And let me show off this. This I love. This is the number 10 Soft Aqua Bright, and it just is really a joy to work with. Gonna come in and get a little corner and I don't know it's the right one for this though. I do like the kind of little fur effect it's giving me. That's pretty nice though as it gets to be drier. Look at that. Nice kind of little dry hair, and then I'm going to come back through. Let's darken this a little more Payne's gray. Kind of bring it across the blue here. Kind of shading that in, right? Pulling it out. You could do this with just a round. What you want to create is a feathering or kind of hair-like edge to the edge here. What I'm very excited about is I have some small ones of these that I get to kind of pull out and play. Look at that. Now that's really nice on that outer edge. I'm going to set my coffee again in a second. Just want to kind of enjoy that moment in the painting.
And thank you to
Because that's sort
everybody.
of showing how that's going to be.
And as I say, thank you to everybody who's joined us. I know that some of y'all have to return back to work. Bye-bye, Amy. And to the rest of y'all who have just joined us, hello, everyone.
Hello! We're painting together. All right, we're going to be back into the burnt umber and the Payne's gray. Make that kind of light gray again.
Now, a new philosophical conversation is erupting in chat.
Okay.
It's about the deeper coloration of Pop-Tarts, and whether or not the sprinkles are real or a hallucination that only previous Pop-Tart owners can see.
To get the dry brush, I've got to kind of pull water out, and that's what gets this nice little fine fur effect. While you guys solve the mystery of the tart. And I'm not saying that's not an important mystery. I just wanted to catch that little edge there. I'll make sure that I've got the beginnings.
I saw a great, I think it was a New Yorker comic strip that had Cookie Monster walking with his therapist saying,
"Look for brushstrokes.
But I need to understand the cookie supply chain."
I think we all feel like that after COVID. We suddenly are like, wait, what's going on in the Suez Canal?
Wait,
is that open? Or is
is
Amazon working this month? I gotta know. All right, I'm gonna continue to brush out these little edges. And can you guys see how the brush, maybe if I hold it over the paper, how it's sort of dry and that causes it to sort of break apart?
Hold on.
And that gives me a nice hair effect.
I have to see that. Okay.
You guys see that? That's what's happening there. And the load isn't very wet. So, I can control how that is. If the brush is wetter, then the little hairs will stick together. But if it's drier, then they will less. And again, this is a very light color. So we're still in that, phase of adding value. I can get a little bit wet, dry it off on the paper towel. Load with some Payne's Gray that's got a little burnt in it. Right here. We had kind of like, before the tail really got going, some of the cat fur.
Mary says Pop-Tarts are like cardboard.
Mary.
You did not grow up when they were the only source of sustenance.
For any of us.
That was the only hot food you could have.
That's it.
It's Pop-Tart.
It's what you get.
Then later, the more sophisticated Hot Pocket came along.
You gotta love a Hot
provide
Pocket.
Nuclear fallout for the inside of your mouth.
Well, we got what we asked for. Taking my number 14 round, and I'm going to kind of darken everything above the nose. This is me sort of capturing the value.
Somehow I think the tagline, Hot Pockets, was better than no skin on the top of your mouth.
I imagine they brainstormed that. I'm going to continue under the eye. And I've added some gray there. We'll get into some deep details in a minute. Quite dark up here, but we don't need to be there yet. And again, we'll get into what's going on in the eye in a second. I just want to make sure that we've got that first layer.
The dangers of having your mom in chat is that everything is like, but I cooked every night. But not when I was at college, or there was a whole time during the middle of the day when one would have to forage for food in the house, and anything that required more than 30 seconds of preparation was out. It was not happening. I got things to do, and I need mobile food.
Kind of softening that in. It's always fun. I can come on the edge if I need to thin it a bit under the eye. Really dark through here. I'm enjoying this. Like, being more serious on the painting of the cat is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to just be going through my brushes. So here's what I'm using right now, if you're wondering. I'm using the number 10 bright, a number 14 round, and a number 10 round. The number 10 round I'm picking up for fine detail. This I'm picking up for hair texture. And this I'm picking up to have a little control in details and spaces.
College is the years where you learn how many ways you can cook ramen in a hot plate. Because they didn't
Every
know
way you can cook.
microwaves.
Well, you hot pocket home too.
Yes. But I didn't hot pocket away because if you've ever seen a dorm microwave, it's frightening because genuine science experiments happen in it.
Yeah, yeah, they don't worry about the food safety area, do they?
No, well, not during the time when I was going to college.
I am just lightening this up here because I want to reposition the mouth. And I want to create shading here to help me do that. So I'm going to get my bright brush and I'm going to come where the chin, underneath the chin, where there would be shadow, and I'm just going to give some more shadow. See how we're doing there?
Mm-hmm.
Because there would be quite a lot, especially right here. And underneath where the cat's chin is going to be. Gonna really shade that in there. Remember, watercolor lightens, so you have to be able to plan to come back in and darken.
Yeah, it's a lot like, you know, you have to do it carefully. Move forward. Don't over darken because you can always add a little bit more.
Yeah.
Don't want to mix analogies. It's just best not to go too many late. Just be gentle.
Don't mix analogies.
Just be gentle, you know. You know, it's like cut twice, measure once, something like that. Just, you know, make sure you
Come in and shade this little chevron up here and kind of start to define the nose. We can always come back with gouache, so you know you're not in too much trouble. I'll try to come up the head here. Make sure that I've got a nice go into my Quinacridone Gold and gray. Now I've got to get the other
hello,
eye.
Anna.
Let's come in and kind of quin out this eye as well. Get a little more Payne's gray. Come in and kind of soften all this. Just painting it out. So I have a lot of lessons that are shorter and easier and more entry, but I've been getting asked for something a little more in depth. And so we've got a couple lessons coming up that are just more involved.
See? Those are I'm going to eat your toe eyes.
They are a little I'm going to eat your toe, but you know, it's what happens. Toe eating may happen. I can't say that it won't. And I can't even blame him. You know, maybe your toe needs eating. I don't know you.
Oh, man. This is why you have a little army of dogs. And what I have learned with small dogs is that you need a variety of them to be effective. You got to have your brave barkers who have no spine, because they have to fall back to always be in the alarm position. They can't give up their, they can't get eaten. They have to be the alarm dog. That's Twix.
They are the alarm dog?
She's brave enough to stand close enough to bark, but not engage.
Not going to engage.
No.
That's not happening.
Then you have your corgis.
I'm going to take a darker black here to work out the bottom of this mouth.
They believe they're much bigger dogs. And in truth, they are. They just got short legs. So you end up with 50 to 75 pounds of dog that's about the same size as the little barky dogs. And so when it pops out there and then leaps up, it's like, whoa, that's a full-size dog. It has the big bark.
Big bark.
Which oftentimes doesn't come out until things get serious. Otherwise, it's play bark.
When do things get serious?
I've not heard it with our dog, but I've heard it with other corgis.
I'm going to use our Ultramarine Blue and some gray, and I'm going to come in.
You cross the corgi line, the corgi's like, I'm a big dog.
Add a little bit of shadow to this eye.
And everyone's like, oh, yeah, you are.
With a glaze. A little bit. This one doesn't really have one over on the far side, and then I'm going to add a bit of a deep shadow.
Okay, this is actually a really good question.
Okay.
Okay, so Lindsay...
Well, John talks, I just keep teaching, so...
Lindsay's got a good question.
Okay.
Okay, so she finds that she's got a pretty good sense of where she's at as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
But she's having trouble because she doesn't know if she's able to tutor herself to get to the next level in other mediums, or does she need to rely on a teacher? Where does she need to be at in her journey?
So if you have your core skills together in a particular medium, and you would say that you are mid-emergent mastering your stuff, like you understand your basic skill sets.
Sort of an intermediate artist there.
Yeah. Then you still really should be referring to other people who are experts in those mediums fields, even if you're going to, like, you might not have to go as deep as you did in the first medium, but it's still good to look at other artists, because they have solved problems that took them years to solve.
So it's always good to reference a teacher, but you can be a little more...
You can self-teach, like online or by reading books or doing that. I'm going to add a little bit of a... Oh my gosh, I just love this right here so much. That. His little face is just coming together in a way that makes me very, very happy.
Making me very, very nervous.
Why?
It's like a land shark.
Oh, land sharks. Then I get a little brown. I'm really glad to have done this today.
See, you get all your little dogs together, and they come together, and they form a giant dog like Voltron to protect against cats.
I don't know what you're talking... John used to really love cats, and then we discovered he was allergic, and I just think he's, like, mad at him over it.
I think I've just taken the side
mad
of dogs.
At the cats for his allergy.
I think I've gone full dog people.
And I think the cats have been very understanding about his allergy and love him in spite of it. And want to rub their face on all over his face.
They want to share.
I'm going to continue in with a very dark color here. And I'm going to pull my dark fur into my brown gray fur. So kind of a little halo. And I will keep pulling my burnt umber over to this. Can I tell you guys something wonderful that happened to me today? We had so we post TikTok, we post Instagram, I post all the places because I like to post and share. And you never know where you're going to find someone who wants to learn how to paint for free. So I try to keep that stuff up there. And today, I recently had a video on TikTok, just boom, out of the blue, hit a couple 100,000 views.
It was crazy.
For me is a lot. and now I was like, I remember when I was like, I need to get to 1,000 followers so we can go live. Now we're at 7,000. It's just crazy.
It was Cinnamon was counting zeros. She was
no, but today on Instagram, I put up my new reel, and I'm like, here's my reel. I just put here. This is my reality on Instagram. As many people follow me as follow me. All the time. I annoy as many people as I seem to attract.
As many people join as they quit.
I'm even.
Single digit percentage differences.
It's so funny. And I don't even have like rage like on YouTube when people are like mad at me. They're like, no. I can't believe I'm having it. They'll tell me why they think I suck. But they're not on Instagram. So I'm going to just keep adding this. And so today, John had stayed up real late. Working on a short video, a reel, and he put the Heart Party song on and everything. And I put it up this morning at 9, and I'm over on TikTok trying to post it, and I can't see anything because the notifications are annoying. They're boom, 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 and I'm like, I'm going to go over to Instagram and turn these things off because this is just too much today. I don't even know why I didn't put it together. I go over and look at the video, and it has like 2,000 likes, and I'm like, that's a lot of likes for being posted 30 minutes ago. And I open it up, and I was like, wow, it got 8,000 views. 8,800 views, and I'm like, nope, that's not right. And so I literally counted tens, like the 10th place, and added a comment mentally, and I'm like, oh, 88,000 views. And it was just really nice.
It was a good morning.
It was just really fun, and I just appreciated these recent gifts from the universe, and I just want to say that, happy success chases me, and I just really appreciated that little moment.
So I hope that helped Lindsay. I see her in the chat here. I'm not sure if that
is it Lindsay Herbert?
Yes.
Okay, Lindsay. So for you, if you want to switch mediums, I think you absolutely can do online education. You don't have to have an in-person teacher at all. But I would take classes for each medium just so you know what to buy, what to use, what the techniques are, like all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I still look at other teachers. If if I was going to go do stained glass, I would not wing it.
No.
I would absolutely at least buy a book, probably go take a course. And I consider myself a very versed artist. And I still think that I learn from other artists now, even so.
And I have determined I have nothing to learn. I know it all. I am an inspired artiste. I'm
taking a brush. So yeah, I would definitely say, and then buy books. Invest in a library. And here's a tip: don't buy new on Amazon. Buy used.
Huh.
Used books are fantastic.
Oh yeah. Oh
and
my gosh.
Especially in art books, and you can get great used books, and oftentimes for huge sales.
Dollars.
Yeah.
Like
so
dollars.
Don't buy new. Buy used. Buy paperback each time and buy used.
And buy them before you share with your friends what books are good to buy.
Yeah.
Because Amazon is evil and will jack the prices up on them right out underneath you.
Yeah.
So
I now have learned not to tell you guys about anything until I got mine. And I don't mean to be rude, but that's what we got to do. Because if I tell you too soon, I'm never going to get mine. I'm going to add a really dark value here under the eye.
Yeah.
And I'm adding it with my bright brush, and you can see this is giving me that nice kind of fur effect. I will come in with a detail brush to get close to the eye. So I'll come in with my detail and see, kind of work it close to the eye. But for the hair effect, I definitely want to use the bright. And come back with a little darker. I can detail here, as you can see. As much as I want to or need to. Go adding a little black to the nose. I like to paint my cat. I do. I like to paint my cat. So.
Have you seen that little massager tool they've got for cat faces?
It's a toothbrush. It's just a toothbrush, John.
No, somebody created one that's actually a little cat toy for massaging cat faces, and because there's like a whole thing about like they like their reminds them of mommy cats.
I still think it's a toothbrush, but
no, there's a toothbrush.
But I mean, I have a brush that's a real brush that looks like a toothbrush, so I shouldn't say anything, right? Because like my brush is an honest artist brush, but it looks like a toothbrush. Of course, if you used it on your teeth, your gums would bleed and bleed and bleed.
Mm-hmm.
And bleed and bleed and bleed. I'm going to add a little dark value right here. Just kind of come across here.
Amethyst, like, this cat is deep.
It's a deep cat. He's philosophical. Rather enjoying him. I want to pull that in. And you can see you can keep softening. I feel like his little chin down here has got a... There we go. He had a bit of a human chin. He got a bit of a human face going. Sometimes your cats get a human face. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm going to come around the ears with my brush, my detail, my number 10. And then I'll come back in with the brush I have that has the little hairs on it. I just want to make sure that I have this lovely sharp edge started. See? Before I try to go pull the hair through.
Oh.
Get that nice sharp edge started. I can even, make sure that I've got a little bit start there. I can start it with the detail. What's funny?
Just everything's going on in chat here. It's just really,
they're funny.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if they're funny, that makes total sense. They are very funny. Continue to pull this here. And I'll grab a little bit, over here. Now remember, if you have an area where it's gotten away from you, you just take the brush damp with no paint and then you soften it. See how you can do? This is what is really cool. So you can just keep softening.
Lulabelle's like, such judgmental eyes.
Have you guys noticed that all my animals are super judgy?
They're
have. Like, I'm so annoyed to be painted right now.
Your toe
just
looks
seems
delicious.
to be my reality. Does not seem to get better when I do this, but
And thank you guys, everyone who's come to hang out with us and to support us in chat, and for all of our patrons, for you guys. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all of our mods who are sharing the links.
I'm going to add a little detail brush stroke around his little mouth here. See that? It gives it a little bit of shape.
It does. It adds that ever so subtle, I'm judging you lip curl.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. Cats. I really am liking this painting. This is like one that I've done. I really just like this generally.
You're all peasants, now feed me.
If you enjoy this process, like how I go from a digital idea to like this, I share a lot of that with my patrons. Like, not everything I work on becomes, a lesson or whatever. I work on a lot of ideas and they either pull together or they don't. But the process of how I go from like writing an idea down saying, cat with Halloween inside it, right? Like I'll be sitting in bed going, cat with Halloween inside it would be a really cool painting. And then I create a digital version of that and then to a painting that we all do together, right? How that happens. He's very fat. I don't mean to be judgy of this cat, but he's a little fat.
There's a lot of Halloween in him.
He ate a lot of Halloween. He ate a lot of Halloween. I'm going to take a damp brush and kind of blend that out so it's not so stark. And you can absolutely do that. You blend it out and it's not so stark.
It's getting close.
We're getting there. We're thinking about it. It's not totally unfortunate.
No, not at all.
I have to wonder if you guys, we've got some really intense landscape next week and then a boat.
A boat.
Yeah, so this is fantasy, and then we've got the fall landscape with the barns. That'll be like a very traditional kind of watercolor that we do. And then we've got a nautical one with the boat.
Oh.
I'm kind of absolutely loving this. So I'm going to come down and do the tail. It's just working for me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm not unhappy with this painting at
Not at all, no.
All right. So I'm going to get a little more brown over here where my brown and black can work together. We've got some sort of layers and I'll try to make sure that my brush strokes curve and are fur-like.
They're fur-esque.
Yeah.
Oops.
Get a little flow to them. You can see why I said don't put all your work into the pumpkins.
Mm-hmm.
Or into her feet because, some of it will be lost. And remember, we can come through with a wet brush and soften this. So that's like what we did up there. And again, if you're wondering what this is the Soft Aqua Petit Glisse Imitation Squirrel 915 number 10 3/8 Raphael Bright Brush. You can get it at the Brush Guys or online or a bunch of places. It's a big international brush company, so you can get it all kinds of places all over the world. In fact, they're centralized out of Europe, so you should probably be able to get them at Jackson's.
They come from France.
One thing that you guys can always do when you get something on my recommendation is tell the art store why you bought it. You're like, I saw it with the Art Sherpa. Okay, so damp brush, and we're going to just come over here and you can see we can soften. And that's, like acrylic, you have room in your watercolor. There's space. You're not just stuck. And come get a lot more dark color and do that. It just gets prettier and prettier. And just brush down like dragon scales.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the fur. This is a calming thing. So I'll tell you a thing here. It's not that I have a fur brush. It's that I have a brush that does a great texture for fur, and I intrinsically understand what fur does, so I can use that brush to get a good fur.
And this is just practice, practice, practice with that, right?
It really is. You paint a lot of clouds, you're going to have an understanding of clouds, you're going to be able to get clouds a lot of different ways with a lot of different tools. And then when you run into a tool that might maybe give you a hand with that cloud, you're going to be like, oh, I see it.
You kind of answered this question. Emily was just asking, are the hairs cut like a comb craner, or is it just the way the bright performs with the watercolor?
If the bright is dry, it does this. If the bright is wet, it's a beautiful, smooth, buttery line. So it's a perfect wash. Crisp is a linen sheet. Wet. Like, so if you have I don't have a scratch piece of watercolor, I would show you, see where my other paper.
I can go get
There's
your
a
swatch
watercolor
paper.
that fell down that I had done a practice thing on that's on the ground, and I don't mind if I paint on that because it was just a practice sheet. I know it looks like a painting, guys, but it's just a practice thing. So I'll show you so you understand why it's exciting to me. Huh? It's too nice? You're like, you can't paint over that? Is that what we're doing? They have a meltdown. I'm going to continue doing this. So I'm going to just show you what happens with these brushes, dry and wet. And I know we've got to do like kind of an introduction to the medium kind of video. All right. So these are swatch blocks. This is just practice watercolor paper to practice on, and we're going to have a bunch of them in the store. It's leftover from books and things that we're trying to print out.
It's a really nice, it's 80-pound cold pressed watercolor paper that we have a bunch of. So we turn them into these ATC size swatch books so you could practice your watercolor, or if you wanted to paint little ATCs, you had a little bunch of them. But they're really cool because it's really nice paper.
I'm going to get a wet application. Yeah. I'm going to dry it out. All right, so that's drier, and then the drier it gets until we get to here. You can just continue to let it dry out. See how that works? Amount of wet water in the brush. Isn't that lovely? And if you have practice paper around like this, then you can check before you work on your art, right? If you wonder, is this new watercolor going to bloom the way I want? Is this new brush going to brush the way I want? It's always good to have paper that's sacrificial paper that you can play with and experiment with and get to know your stuff. If you are in Life Book this year, I'm going to do a corner brush stroke. It's kind of like a thing. That one I'm always doing with my other brushes. I can do anything with this. Heavily wet application. If you are in Life Book, do not skip the Everything But the Kitchen Sink bonus lesson that I did. I think it's the best lesson I did of the year, which is all about how to use scratch paper and your paper and make time to get to know your tools.
You know, guys, if you want to help us out, one of the best things you can do is paint a painting, then tag Cinnamon back into it. Just let us know that you've done it so we can see how you're doing, because we measure our success on how good you guys paint a painting.
Yeah.
And
that's not your success, that's my success.
So
Just so you guys know that, I blame me first before I ever blame you if you guys are having trouble with the painting.
She does.
Yeah.
She's like,
I know, I can see that I made the mistake somewhere in the lesson. And then I will try to correct for it. So, never feel bad about sharing. You will always be treated well in the group. The group is for my tutorials, not just general original artwork. We do have a day for that, but it is for the tutorials. But if you're like, wanting to share one of the tutorials that you've done, it is a very good and safe space to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to take very clean water and do a deep rinse on this brush.
All right.
And I'm going to activate some of my gouache that we had out here earlier. I wonder if I can, gotta check it up here, right? Check the gouache.
That's another nice thing about having those little test sheets. See, I'm plugging our stuff.
You are.
Well, I'm kind of bad at it, but
a little bit of a reflection here and there, right?
A lot of these products you're going to see going in our store are things that you guys, they're convenient products. They're things that we designed around things you guys might need, and it's a great way to help support the studio.
If I overdo it, I can just come back.
Keep the lights on and provide this free stuff, the free training.
The free training.
I'm the you can buy our stuff guy, so that Cinnamon can focus on the painting.
So you can add a little bit of that to imply reflections. So just like you did a little bit of whimsy on her, you can do a little whimsy on the cat. Really, mostly, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get my round brush, very clean round brush. This is the 10 round, which is a little more detail than the 14. This has a slightly sharper point, and I want that because I'm going to add that reflection to the nose. Come in and add this reflection to the eye. Come in, just adding those little details.
Lots of cat conversations.
There we go.
This turned out fantastic.
I am not unhappy with it.
A really nice chat with everybody. We had a really great crowd. Lots of people here.
He's just a cutie patootie, isn't he? He's just a cutie patootie. I'm just now playing now. So sometimes I get into something and I'm like, ooh, I like that. Or
That's one of the nice things you can do is you can just keep, until you feel like that's where it is. That's where I want it to be.
You're happy with it. And remember, yeah. I mean, like I might be with my painting for an hour, a couple hours. You guys can be with your painting as long as you want. I feel like he's very fluffy now, though.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign, and I will, I don't know, get some of this blue color here, and I'm going to get my very pointed brush, and I'll come on the side. I'm going to make sure this is wet enough to sign, though. There we go. We did it. It's a cat that ate Halloween. Very strange, weird little idea in my head. Very happy to get to, you know, spend this time with you guys and paint this cute cat and do this fur and have some fun. Very, very fun. Look, I like these glasses. I can actually see all the details a little bit better.
I can see.
You know, and go ahead and you know, put more time in. If you're like even under my signature, I can come in and be like, oh no, I want more shadow here, or you know, you can always come in and just spend as much time with your subject as you want. As much time as you want. Just entirely up to you. You just play till you're happy at the end of the day. Now, next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel. See you at 1 o'clock for a live stream. We're going to do this really gorgeous barn. It's going to be like a full landscape. So we're going to spend some time with that and work on our landscape techniques and, you know, get a little experimental. And I'm kind of looking forward to sharing it with you.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I like our little relaxed watercolor channel of grooviness over here. I hope you guys like it too. Just a really blessed day in general. I can't wait to see your paintings. If you would like to share with me what you did in today's class, there's a Facebook group. If you haven't joined it already, you've got questions to answer. We don't let anyone in without answering the questions. And that's just so people don't get put in the group without any knowledge of that. You know how the people used to do that, just stick you in groups and you're like, what? Why am I in this discount coupon group? Like, so you do have to actively join. And you can share watercolor or acrylic tutorials for my classes in there. You will be treated kindly. You can always share the link to my tutorials that matches your painting. And I do appreciate that in my own group, you know. I'm very excited to see who does this painting.
Me too.
Who gets into this and who does this and who had fun doing this. I'm kind of pumped about that. So yeah, please do share. Keep painting. Keep enjoying your life. Be good to yourselves and be good to each other. And I want to see you in an easel really soon. Bye-bye.